Well, welcome back to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I am your host, Christina, and it is Memorial Day weekend in the States. I wanted to give you guys just a quick little fun Memorial Day episode. Hopefully you guys are on your way to a beach or a lake or somewhere cool. Maybe your pool's opening for the first time. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of ear candy while you're listening. I pulled together some really surprising, in fact, encounters for this one. So if you're not from the States and you don't know what Memorial Day is, we do have a lot of overseas listeners, which is really kind of cool. So hello. Memorial Day is a national holiday in the United States where we honor those who have died in service to our country. And I really wanted to just say thank you to all of our veterans and people who are active duty that listen to the show. I know there's a lot of you guys out there. So thank you so much for your service to our country. It's just an honor that you're in this space with us. So just a little bit of history of Memorial Day. It actually originated during the American Civil War. People started placing flowers on graves of fallen soldiers, and the first actual national observance was in 1868. So a lot of people definitely do take to the road Memorial Day weekend. So if you are driving, please stay safe out there, especially if you're driving anywhere in the Maryland, Virginia area, because it's always a nightmare. Here on our kind of turf on the pod, we're hoping to get to the pool, but I don't know. I think I don't even know what season of Maryland seasons we're in. I know they're supposed to be in theory 12, but I feel like we're just in moron possible fall because it's like 62 degrees and it's almost June. So I never know what to expect with the weather, so I might as well just forget it. So I did find a couple of ghostly encounters that tend to ramp up apparently on Memorial Day. So the first one is located in the ghost town of Moonville, Ohio. The Moonville Tunnel is infamous for its spectral sightings. Visitors have reported seeing the apparition of a railroad brakeman who was allegedly struck by a train in the 19th century. His ghost is said to appear with a lantern, especially around Memorial Day, as people pay respects to those who have lost their lives in the area. So this is just a little brief history of Moonville. In the mid-1800s, the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad was pushing through the southeastern Ohio to reach Cincinnati. Along its route and in the more remote sections were the towns of Zaleski, Hope Furnace Station, Ingham Station, and King Station. Central to these small coal mining towns was also a small community mainly made up of two families, the Coes and the Fergusons. It was called Moonville. Nearby, the railroad company built two trestles over the winding Raccoon Creek and gouged a tunnel called Moonville Tunnel through one high hill. Walking in the tracks was incredibly dangerous and was made even more hazardous by the trestles and the tunnel. One trestle stood over Raccoon Creek less than 50 yards away from the tunnel mouth. Over 21 people were killed on or near the tracks here. And it says the last fatality was reported in 1978 when a 13-year-old girl fell off the trestle as the train passed over it. Oh my gosh, that's awful. By the turn of the century, the coal mine slowly started to be used up and closed down. The last family left town in 1947. By then, the town itself was abandoned. By the 1960s, all the buildings were gone and there was little to mark the site other than Moonville Cemetery, the tunnel, and foundation stones found near the tracks. So apparently, usually around Memorial Day, it's kind of said that people are still paying homage to, I guess, part of this town. And that's where the legends and kind of the ghosts sort of come in. So when I did a little bit more digging, I found a couple more legends of apparitions in the Moonville Tunnel. So let's see here. It says, okay, there's the engineer, the brakeman, the lavender lady, and the bully. So the engineer is reportedly the ghost of Theodore Lawhead, an engineer from the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad Company. He began to haunt the tracks after his train collided head-on with an oncoming train in the 1880s. Visitors have seen a ghostly figure holding a lantern while walking alongside the track and through the tunnel. Oh, that's creepy. The brakeman is believed to be the ghost of a drunken young man who was working on a train as a brakeman. The young man had consumed too much liquor one night and fell to sleep on the tracks. I feel like these stories are all kind of not so much the same, but it seems like the same people are haunting the same tunnels and bridges. I don't know. The Lavender Lady. Visitors of the Moonville Tunnel have seen a thin, elderly woman walking along the trail shortly after she disappears, and the scent of lavender fills the air. It is believed to be Mary Shea, who was killed on the tracks at the far end of the tunnel. And then the next one is the Bully, who is believed to be the ghost of Baldy Keaton. Baldy Keaton was a resident of Moonville. The legend says that Baldy was a man that liked to fight when he got drunk. The legend also says that one of Baldy's tactics was to bear hug his opponent. When Baldy was at the saloon, he decided to fight, and a group of men kicked him out. Later, he was found dead on the tracks. Many believe it was murder. The legend now says that the ghost of Baldy Keaton stands above the tunnel and stares at the approaching visitors. He will sometimes throw pebbles. The legend of the Bully was also told by young mothers to their children, and the mothers also used to tell their children to not stay out at night or else the bully would get them. Okay, well, that definitely tracks, because I feel like we're always threatening our children with ghostly apparitions of something that's going to get them. Okay, so that's just a couple of cute little ghost encounters, ghost stories. If you guys find yourself in Moonville, Ohio, that might be cool, like urban exploring, I think. Oh yeah, so it says that the area remains accessible and the old roadbed provides access to the tunnel. Plans to turn the area into a formal rail trail, the Moonville Rail Trail, have been implemented. 6.5 miles of the trail are currently open, with 9.5 miles plus 12 bridges still needed. So there's also a Halloween and ghost themed festival known as Midnight at Moonville, located on the old railroad bed and in the tunnel. Oh, I bet you that's kind of spooky. So there you go. For all my spooky season people who are probably already planning, this could be a good fun place to go. Moonville, Ohio. Okay, so I was actually really quite surprised because I've never really heard of any encounters in Idaho specifically. So this encounter is the Lake Pend Oreille, and I did look that up for pronunciation, so you should be proud of me. It's called the Pend Oreille Paddler. And so this cryptid apparently inhabits Lake Pend Oreille in North Idaho. Many are doubting its existence. It really kind of reminds me of the Snallygaster, but maybe not as, I don't know, controversial. So there's a lot of sightings, but some of them are being passed off as naval submarines on a practice dive, because there is, it's actually kind of close to a state park, and there's a naval training center kind of nearby. So the history kind of goes like this. The first appearance of the monster in the North Idaho Lake was in 1944. So many locals think the monster may have been a submarine from that training center. The odd shapes seen below water were possibly submarines taking deep dives off of the lake practice, kind of because it was around World War II. And then it continued through the Cold War. But the other thing that's really interesting is that even there's kind of like a little bit of a supposed like naval cover up here. So it's kind of neat, because I think as you get deeper into these cryptid sightings, if we also we can also look at like some Bigfoot territory too. Every time there's like a state park, or there's kind of like a lake or something nearby and it has to do with the military, there's always something a little sus about it. I don't know. So people always like to suppose that there's a cover up. But as it goes on, alleged sightings also began again in 1970s, renewing the rumors of a large silver monster inhabiting the lake. In 1977, a young girl playing at Sandpoint City Beach survived a monster attack, whom the reporters dubbed the paddler, the Pend Oreille paddler. That's kind of where they started naming it. And so I'm going to pull up the Sandpoint Magazine Summer 2005. So this is kind of a cool account, and it says myth or mystery. In 1984, James R. McLeod led a group of North Idaho college students in a study of Lake Pend Oreille and the mystery surrounding a monster alleged to be swimming in its waters. So the basis for the claim of a monster in the lake is directly traceable to a single event occurring in the summer of 1944. Although much national attention had been focused on another reputed monster, Slimy Slime, or Charlie, in Payette Lake in central Idaho in the early and mid-1940s, the 1944 event at Lake Pend Oreille received little note. It might have been lost to modern memory had not monster lorist Loren Coleman, in his interesting book Mysterious America, listed Pend Oreille as one of the many lakes having monsters. I can't think of anything like more on brand for Memorial Day travel than lake monsters, so this is great. References, both published and unpublished, of something large in the lake began to appear again in the early 1970s. In a January 1970 article, Mrs. Lillian E. Hall, a resident of 59 years at Kilroy Bay, observed, she says, talk of some kind of monster in the lake, which she hears from time to time, mostly comes from a bottle. What was certainly the most sensational surface sighting of the late 70s occurred in early September 1977, when a young girl was reportedly attacked by the monster near the Sandpoint City Beach. Included with the article in the tabloid What's Happening was a photo of the creature, which journalists dubbed the Pend Oreille Peddler. In late 1984, the mystery was finally solved. The photo of the paddler turned out to be a 12-foot papier-mâché catfish used in a play that had appeared in Sandpoint in October 1974. In any case, the 1977 story is of particular note in that it has coined a new name for the creature, namely the paddler, has been the most frequent label since that time and has gained widespread popularity throughout the region. Okay, so I have to admit, I love the idea of just a big river fish monster for Memorial Day weekend. So here's another sighting of the paddler. This is from 1985. So on Memorial Day, 1985, Julie Green and her friends set out for an afternoon on the lake in the mid-afternoon sun. The teacher reports a large V-shaped wave crossed about 200 yards in front of her boat. She says, quote, there was clearly something in the water ahead of us that was undulating, coming in and out of the water, according to reports. She went on with her story, saying they dropped her engine and gave chase, but the gunmetal gray object, which rivaled the length of her 22-foot boat, soon outdistanced her. So that's kind of crazy. Wow, what a wild account. And so let's see here. So this is some information about this actual lake. So it's apparently the 5th or 6th deepest lake in the U.S., depending on who you talk to. The lake is in North Idaho near Spokane and is over 1,100 feet deep. Holy moly, 43 miles long, and has over 148 square miles of water to hide in. Locals eventually started calling the creature the paddler. A North Idaho college once did a 3-year study of the creature and found maybe the paddler does exist, but the group also concluded that human nature tends towards storytelling and tales of the unknown. Well, of course. I mean, that's kind of what we do, and that's what we love. That's what we're doing right now. You're engaging with this content because you want to hear me tell you some creepy, weird stories for Memorial Day. Okay, and so this kind of gets back to, I guess, the more skeptical view of what the paddler could be. A lot of people do say that it is probably connected with the submarine tests that are in the lake. So this was an article by thespokesman.com, and it says, did Navy use fish story as cloak? Paddler said to be subs. And so it's very likely, according to this article, that so sightings of the it says sightings of the mythical creature, which supposedly lives in the 12-foot deep lake, oddly coincide with Navy submarine tests. And what better way to disguise a top secret operation than to start a rumor of a lake monster? So that's a quote from getting back to Jim McLeod. He's the college teacher that did the he's been kind of chasing this legend for years now. And so he says he's not into conspiracy theories. In fact, if the Navy did invent the monster, he gives it credit for a job well done. It's been a good laugh for everybody along the way, I think. So his theory about the paddler appeared as a cover story in Omni magazine. This was later this month. This is from 1996 in November. He says the creature surfaced when Navy tests began in the 1940s. Those who told stories of seeing bizarre activity on the lake, most likely model submarines, were written off as fools or pranksters. The Navy pretty much chuckles at the idea that it dreamed up a monster. The Navy, and this is a quote, the Navy would not go to the extent or effort to create some story to cover up the fact we are involved in submarine testing, said Commander Rick Schultz, who heads the Navy's David Taylor Acoustic Research Center in Bayview. I think that it's definitely false, but I can't say that in the past an employee sitting at a bar didn't lean over to his buddy and say, hey, did you know this sort of thing? Quote unquote. So that's kind of cute. So yeah, it seems like an inconclusive lake monster, kind of like Chessie. If you guys are new here and you haven't heard our Chessie episode, in kind of in the Maryland, Virginia, Eastern Shore area, we have a lake monster, or actually kind of a bay monster rather. So Chessie, you definitely check out our episode that Crystal and I covered on him, because he's just cute. So yeah, I guess that's gonna do it for the coverage of the paddler. If you are out there and I know we have a lot of Navy listeners, or at least a couple of you that I know of. If you can confirm or deny hearing about this story, and especially if you're in Idaho, I would love to hear from you. Okay, so kind of to wrap it up here, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of, hopefully, I don't know, you're probably about wherever you started from, 30 minutes down the road in your travels this weekend. I hope you're enjoying this cute little episode here. So of course, while I'm looking into all of the lake monsters and the haunted bridges and stuff, I had to check out and see what the BFRO said, and if there were actually any Bigfoot sightings around this lake. And wouldn't you know it, there was. In 1996, in the summer, in June. So this is in Kootenai County, which is basically kind of where that area sort of is. This is in Idaho. So this is off of Highway 95 in Hayden, Idaho. Observe, the witness is a retired California highway patrol officer. And so this is how the account goes down. Headed for a business appointment in Bonners Ferry. So this witness says that he was driving northbound on Highway 95, headed for a business appointment in Bonners Ferry, a town about 80 miles north. This occurred last summer. So it was actually in 1995, in the early morning hours, possibly on a Sunday. Possibly only 5 to 10 miles north of Hayden, Idaho. He happened to look in his rearview mirror of his car and saw this large, unidentified man-looking creature walking across the roadway just behind his vehicle. He also noticed it also goes on to say the witness did turn his vehicle around and went back to where this creature had crossed the highway. It had disappeared into the thick vegetation. Other stories. Also, I have reports of hearing what might have been a Bigfoot in an area about 10 miles west of Bonners Ferry. And so it says this particular area is heavily wooded, flat land. There are homes in the general area, but not right in the vicinity. So that's one account that's kind of close to where we had that reported. And then this is one from May 2008 in the same county. And it says, so the nearest town is Athol. I used to regularly camp in the Whitetail Campground in Farragut State Park near Athol, Idaho. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. It is especially peaceful during the off season, and I used to like to camp there on weekends from about early May to mid-June. During these times, it is dead quiet at night, and I heard wood knocks several times. Sound really carries due to the large lake surrounded by mountains and hills. At the time, I thought it was interesting, but made no connection to Sasquatch. After reading reports on this site, I now think the sounds are more interesting. Late one night, my wife and I were asleep in our large family tent in Whitetail Campground. It was dead quiet in the campground, and we both woke to the sound of a large animal walking through the brush, loudly breaking branches as it stepped on them. We both thought it sounded like it was bipedal, and I thought it was a very large man. I wondered why somebody would be wandering around in the woods in the middle of the night. The footsteps got closer and closer, and then the animal was in our sight. It brushed against the tent as I walked past. It headed over to the patch of large mushrooms that were growing at the edge of our site. We looked out of the tent window and shined a flashlight around, but we couldn't see anything. It was quiet then, and we assumed that whatever it was had kept going. We turned out the light and got back into bed. A few minutes later, the animal walked back out of the campground the same way it came in. It just stood quietly when we were shining the flashlight. When we got up in the morning, all of the mushrooms were gone. I thought a lot about what the animal was. I don't think it was a bear, unless it was a very large one. There are no grizzlies in that area. And I thought that the stride length was much longer than a bear's. I also think a bear would have reacted to the flashlight, let alone the noise we were making moving around in the tent. I thought it could be a moose, but I have watched them walk around before, and I don't think the sound would be bipedal. I have also heard that moose are not nocturnal. I don't think it was a large person. It was very dark, and the animal obviously had no man-made light. I don't know about that one. That's kind of crazy. All right. And it looks like, there's no follow-up questions from the investigator. So that's definitely, that's classified as a Class B. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so here is actually another, so we'll do one more account in the same area. So this is actually winter 1980. I know we're kind of straying a little bit from the Memorial Day theme, but we're in the same area where the lake monster is reported. So I kind of thought that would be a fun connection. So this is Post Falls, Idaho. Same county, Interstate 90. And so this is the observation. My wife and myself were trucking in 1988. We stopped on I-90 just west of Post Falls, Idaho. I was very tired. I did my paperwork and I needed to step out. I walked around my truck and relieved myself. I did not hear anything, but I got a feeling and looked to my left. I saw it face to face. He was no more than 10 feet from me. I cannot tell you how I felt. He was a giant. My wife and I could have both died if he would have been angry. I think he was there to see us. I went back slowly into my truck and left. Before I left, we heard him run back into the forest. He broke limbs like they were nothing. Okay, so he also noticed his strength was unreal. He broke branches 2 to 3 inches in diameter, like they were nothing. My wife saw it through the window when I got back into the truck. So he says it was winter, about 1 a.m., beginning of December. Oh, wow, that's crazy. All right, well, Idaho, who knew? So that's going to wrap it up for the Memorial Day. Just like I said, I wanted to do a little quick Memorial Day extra episode for you guys. I know it's not the same without a guest, but I'm just trying to see how these episodes do. If you guys like, me just kind of going through some stories and finding some random reports. So if you have an encounter that you want to share, you can now give us a call. I actually set up a little phone number for the podcast. So you can call, leave a message. I'm probably not going to answer it. It just kind of goes to like an answering machine type thing. And then you can also send text messages. So the number is 202-556-3802. You can also report any encounters, and that's any sort of cryptid, any kind of paranormal encounter, and prayer requests. Go to the website, sasquatchandsourdough.com, and you can also send an email to sasquatchandsourdough@gmail.com. So until next time, guys, remember, the truth is out there, God is with you, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen. You have been listening to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I'm Christina, and thank you so much for tuning in. Sasquatch and Sourdough is so much more than just a podcast. We're a community of kindred spirits, united by our curiosity and fascination with the extraordinary. And we want to bring you into the conversation. So whether you've had a brush with the unexplainable, seen something that you can't quite wrap your head around, this is your space. We invite you to join us as we break bread and break down the barriers between the known and the unknown. If you want to share your story, you can email us at sasquatchandsourdough@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram. Until next time, remember, the truth is out there, God is with you, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen.